Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our regular meeting of council this June 19th, 2023 at 7 p.m. So moved by Martin Lang, seconded by Sam McDonnell, be it resolved that the regular council meeting of June 19th, 2023 be called to order at 7 p.m. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, carried. We will now rise for the singing of the national anthem. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Yes, Councillor McDonnell.
I would like to declare on, sorry, I didn't have that ready, staff report. Oh, God. Sorry, I had it yesterday. 8C. The company in question is already in agreement with my family's business, so I'll step away at that point.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other declarations? All right, the approval of the agenda, are there any changes?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there are no amendments to the agenda this evening.
Okay, moved by Stephanie Jaworski, seconded by Trevor Bougie. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry approve the agenda as circulated. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, carried. Approval of the minutes. Are there any changes to the minutes required or noted? Okay, moved by Stephanie Jaworski, seconded by Sam McDonnell. Be it resolved that the minutes of the following meetings, including closed session minutes, be adopted as circulated. Previous meeting minutes, June 5th, 2023. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, carried. All right, we will get into presentations and delegations. Our first presentation is First Line Road issue. Mr. Poplet, if you could come up at the podium, turn your microphone on. It's the gray button in the middle. Red light should appear, and please speak into it.
Testing. All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me over here. I have no idea how this is going to go down or what's going on. I'm just doing my best. I put on my clean shoes, my big boy pants, and I'm going to try and get through this as best I can. I've lived on First Line Road for about 30 years. The residence that I'm presently in I've been there for going on 4 years, but I lived right next door to the residence that I'm in at the moment. The reason I'm in front of you today is because of the condition of First Line Road. I've been negotiating and having discussions with some members of this staff or this organization as well as others about the road. And I think the first thing I need to bring to your attention is the word dust. Dust, 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 that's all we see on this road. It's, the road itself is not maintained as it has been in years past. What I'm noticing is over the last four or so years, road condition is degrading. Washboard is quite common. And don't forget the all-important word, dust. And entering from the 18, I live, by the way, I live on the corner of Highway 18 and First Line Road. There's a 3-kilometer stretch roughly to the next paved section, which is down by the 8th concession. Why we cannot maintain a 3-kilometer stretch of dirt road is beyond my understanding. Why it's gotten to where it is today is, again, beyond my understanding. We don't see calcium very much anymore. I come and I represent a group, if you could stand up. These are some of the residents from First Line Road. I represent them. We want to raise our families. As you can see, we are as young as a year old here. Children cannot go outside and play. There's no such thing on First Line Road as telling your kids go out and get fresh air, because if it's a sunny, beautiful day, it doesn't happen. Those trucks are going up and down, they're kicking up dust, everything is coated in dust. If you live on the Hagen side of the road and it's a west wind, there you go, they're not coming out to play today. If it's an east wind, the Orr family is not coming out to play. And this is what we live with. The trucks themselves, they show up at 10 after 6. Now, I understand you have no control over the trucks. I also understand I live on a concession road that has a quarry on it. I've lived on that road, however, for 30 years. I've never seen it like it is today. These trucks are showing up at 10 after 6 in the morning. They're rattling by my house empty. It sounds like they're carrying steel garbage cans because of the washboard on the road. Up they go and away they go. Other guys are coming back, fully loaded, 80K. My driveway is, I don't know, let's say 500 to 800 meters from the stop sign. That guy blasts past me and he comes to a sliding stop. Other trucks are coming with squeaky brakes, using their engines to slow down. All in all, I understand the trucks are not your issue. We'll learn to live with that. But the vibrations that are coming from that road and coming into my home, as well as other homes, is unacceptable. We feel that this is something that needs to be controlled and taken care of. My home itself is being subject to all kinds of strange and weird conditions. For example, my HVAC. I have to clean out my HVAC because there's sand inside of it. My garage, which is not insulated, it's just a standard 2x6 construction garage, but if you go in there, you can wipe sand off of all of my work, all of my equipment. It's not dust, it's sand. As a matter of fact, there's somebody who can vouch for that, I'm sure. When I get into my car, I turn on my wipers and clear mud off my windshield. As soon as I hit the squirt, I'm leaving mud trails down the side of my windshield because that's how I start my drive when I get in my car. My countertops are crunchy. If I leave my windows open, I'm not thinking, and I slide a plate across my countertop as I'm making a bagel in the morning, it's crunchy. That's what's coming in. I've sent letters to you guys. I sent a letter to the mayor. The last letter that I wrote where I thought the issue was going to be dealt with was 2 years ago. I believe you have a copy of that letter. It was distributed in an email through Kelly. Where am I going next? It was so bad that this spring I had to pull out a pressure washer and wash my garage door. I have a beautiful white garage door. I don't know about you guys. You're pressure washing your garage doors? No, but I am, because it was just filthy and black. So I think where I'd like to take this conversation is the quality of life. I've lived there all these years. Some of these people are newer residences, but we deserve our quality of life. We're raising children, we're having families, we're contributing to South Glengarry. We should be paid the respect of being able to send our children outside to play. We should be able to get in the pool without worrying about the mud circle in the middle of the pool. We don't sit outside during the week. Forget about that, like there's no sitting outside. My patio furniture is non-existent. I put out one chair, one table. I'll go and have a coffee in the morning before the trucks really get revving, but like that's what we're living with right now. There's breathing issues. Forget about hanging laundry. We certainly don't open windows. And for for us, there's basically no fresh air for us. Like, we need your help. I don't understand how maintaining the road was done years ago, but today it's not. I would propose that we pave the road. Paving the road to me makes sense. I've talked to all kinds of individuals with different levels of experience in this matter. The trucks aren't going to kill a paved road, and the paved road will stop all of our troubles. But I understand paving roads cost money. So let's say we don't pave the road, but the least that you can do for us as tax-paying citizens is maintain this road. Put calcium on it. Get rid of the washboard. I don't know if all my bitching, excuse the language, has facilitated the grader going up and down my road today, but he was there. Hey, hallelujah, I had a grader on my road today because they laid down a whole slew of gravel last week. But that slew of gravel they laid down stayed inches thick until today that a grader finally came by and compacted it and spread it out and got rid of the thick edges. I got sucked off the road as I pulled up to a mailbox because the edges of the road were too high. All in all, guys, we just think we deserve a decent environment to live in. And it's got to that point where I have to stand in front of you and tell you that we don't have a decent environment that we're living in anymore. And I'd really appreciate it if you could do something, elevate whatever needs to be elevated so that we can stop having this conversation, because I've been at it now for 4 years, and it's come to tonight. Tonight I had to come here. I'm really nervous. I don't know if you hear it in my voice, but I don't want to be here. But at the same time, I want to be able to sit on my deck. I want to be able to go outside. I want to be able to I want to hear the birds again. But, you know, at this point, it's just weekends, and that's providing it rain during the week so that the road got some moisture. Let's see what I got here. Yeah, here's one I like. They close schools because it's too smoky outside. I love that one, you know. Yeah, environment counts. Let's go for the environment. But us, don't worry about it. It's First Line Road. There's only 8 residents there complaining. You have 13,000 residents, I understand. Well, your average is great. It's only 8 people complaining. But we'd like our voice to be heard. We'd really like you to do something about it. If you want, come on over. I'll set up tables. We can sit in the yard and have a coffee, and I'll make tea, coffee, and we'll sit around and watch trucks go by. My point being, I realize I'm being a little sarcastic, but it's got to that point. I need to do something to fix this situation, please and thank you. So that's it. That's what I got. Turn off the thing.
Yes, for now, and we might have some questions of you, and thank you for your presentation. I forgot to mention before that we don't generally make decisions at delegation. We typically go back to staff, and they'll come back, and that will be a public report too, just to set the expectation.
What's going on? I just was told to be here, so.
Okay, no, but I just wanted to let you know that's typically what happens. I believe you would be, yes. So you can watch yourself on YouTube forever. He said hi, Mom. Councillor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, you did a good job, Terry. You didn't sound too nervous. I understand where you're coming from. I've driven that road. I've driven a lot of gravel roads, and generally they're dusty, but I guess as far as gravel roads go in the township, it's arguably the busiest one. It's known not necessarily always as First Line Road, but as Quarry Road, right? A lot of people. So I understand where you're coming from. We've had this conversation before too. Asphalt's extremely expensive. All of these costs are extremely expensive. I know we had a brief conversation earlier about with the culvert, everything. Yeah. Yeah. No, and that's I guess.
Councillor McNell, just one moment. When you respond, maybe you should keep your mic on just so it's on public record. Thank you. Councillor McNell, go ahead.
Sorry.
It's a K and a half of road that the present people live on. It's a K and a half of road. Come on, you're doing hundreds and hundreds of kilometers out there. We're asking for a K and a half of road.
Yeah, and I think that's the conversation maybe for our staff and for our roads crew is we have to acknowledge that we have a road that maybe in the past, and we've had, like Mrs. McDonald is new to our team in the last couple of years. We had Mr. LeBon before that, and Mr. McDonald, of course, before that. And we have had a lot of turnover, and some of these things, maybe for the staff that were there for 20 years, they were top of mind, or they were a no-brainer for them that Okay, well, First Line Road gets 3 times the calcium that the fourth concession gets, and maybe it's, I guess, for ourselves, we know, we see, the guys aren't, it's not muscle memory that we've had 5 nice days, we should be going down and putting water, but maybe we commit ourselves in the interim at the very least to continue with a regimental calcium application, water on those bad weeks where we're not getting a rain for a week and a half. We've had a bad stretch in the last little while where we hadn't had rain and we'd had some warm weather and we'd get a lot of dust, so.
The year started very early. And mind you, the last week or so, it's been raining, so hey, hoo-hoo, yeah, it's been good. But
Yeah.
in general, this year's gotten off to a really good dusty start.
Yeah, I don't think anybody at the table right now or our staff are intentionally trying to leave you in that environment. And I think we just have to get to a point where we're comfortable and you're comfortable as residents that we're getting enough water or dust suppressant down and we're maintaining it on a proper kind of schedule and it's something to look at when it comes to budget. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and blow smoke at you. It's not in our budget this year to pave the road. It's a lot of money to do it, but
It is in your budget to take care of the road, though?
Yep, absolutely.
All
No,
right, 'cause
100%.
That's part of the fishing expedition here, is to get the road to smoothen out and to be quiet and to not be full of dust.
And that's it. And we've had that conversation ourselves. So it's something you've brought it to the forefront before, and now you've taken the step to come to council. And I think it'll go to staff, and we can come back with a true plan in place here to make sure that you guys have an acceptable living condition. I was also on that road this morning. I did see. I followed the water truck down the road this morning, so you should be good for today, anyways.
Might be a sarcastic thing to say, but for half the cost of that culvert, we could have paved the road by now. I don't know why we need a culvert that has to last what looks like the next 200 years, but I leave it up to the people that make those decisions. But, I looked at that culvert last year going in. I couldn't believe the money being spent on a culvert. But anyhow, I digress.
I guess we can talk, we'll go to General Manager after I have a question, but Deputy Mayor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Thanks for your presentation. Appreciate it. I know it's not easy to come and, put yourself out there. Yeah. So, hey. But it means something when you come here and tell us this, and you bring people with it. It counts for something, so don't discredit it. So 1.5 kilometers would take care of all the residents. If we did something with 1.5 kilometers from the 18 north, would that take care of all the residents?
The 18 north, a little bit past Michael and Emily Hagan's house would be appreciated just before the hill that goes up. And then on the other side, there's a residence just south of Donna Orwell's property. If you could pick it up from there and take it to past Donna's house. The pavement starts just after Donna's house. So there are 2 little sections that would probably equate to about 1 kilometer, 1.5 kilometers.
We'll have to check and see what we have for road counts on that, traffic counts on that road.
I can give you counts.
Hey, that doesn't hurt. But we likely have traffic counts, and we should likely do some more. And I think maybe on that road is a road that we have to take into effect that the traffic counts are mostly trucks. And what we had heard last time we talked about traffic counts, that, 1 truck equates to many, many cars. I think it was hundreds, was it not?
It's likely 3,000 to 10,000, depending on your sources.
And if that's the case, maybe that justifies that this section of road needs to get done. So I'm hearing you, and we'll try to. Obviously, it's not likely going to get done this summer because budget's set, but we'll see if we can't maintain it better. And
Talked to JP. He was offering a deal a couple of years ago.
that's good. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Jaworski.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Thank you very much, Mr. Public, for bringing this to us. I was reviewing the video that I guess you'd sent 2 years ago. Yeah, they're very compelling. But I guess I just wanted to tie this back to a discussion that we had. I guess it was before the new year when we were talking about our roads, like the road specialization study and the approach that we wanted to take in terms of paving and there's the issue of, you can look at having a gravel road as, is it comfort while you're driving? But there's also the issue of dust. And I definitely, I don't dispute that having homes very close to gravel roads, particularly ones that are very highly trafficked and that are trafficked by very large trucks, that's a different scenario than necessarily just saying I'd rather to drive along a paved road. And so that was something that I had brought up during that discussion, and I do hope that that's still something that when we're looking at situations like this, that we can keep it when staff is looking at these situations, that's something that could be considered, because in some cases, we do have homes that are very close to gravel roads that are, close, that there's several, and that I think in the past, sometimes we've said, oh, we won't do sections of roads, but I think, there could be definitely cases where it is justified. And so just to echo what my colleagues have said about looking at this road, with a fresh perspective in terms of what kind of traffic counts. And I look forward to what staff has to bring forward on this one. But I thank you very much for coming. It is very important when you bring these issues forward like this.
Yeah, I thank you as well. And just to bring it up one more time, but there's so much dust that when I cut my lawn, which is it's expensive, when I cut my lawn, I live in a little whirlwind of dust. That's how much is out there. It's not that I'm cutting dirt, I'm cutting lawn, but you wouldn't know it some days because the dust is just amazing. It's quite substantial.
Sure, go ahead, Deputy Mayor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Would you have any idea, you guys live on the road, what percentage would you think of the trucks go north out of the quarry, and what percentage would you think comes south?
It strikes me the majority goes south, but I've been in constant discussions with Donna. She's at the north end. She sees a high volume of trucks as well. But what I see is they're stacked up 3 deep sometimes when they come in for the stop sign. So I'm gonna guess that I see more of the traffic than Donna does.
Thank you.
Thank you, and if I can add some perspective, I believe presently, I had a short discussion after a conversation just on the how we do it, and I guess that's kind of, we get our calcium once a year, and it's a contract, right? So we get it and we do it once. This would be a change to that if that was, so we need cost for that. As well as, I believe the trucks are supposed to leave out concession 7, like that is the route, if I understood properly. So coming down to 18, like that is not the desired route which we want to go to. Now, governing that can be hard. And then the wet blanket portion of me, just to, like it's always great is if we can't have too many roads in our municipality that like might collect, $10,000 worth of taxation, and then we spend $12,000 worth of road. That means somebody else is paying for it. I'm not saying that this conversation is. I just want to, that will be factored likely into administrative decision and recommendation back to us once we get the numbers. But I can appreciate like standard of living, and I just want to make you aware that those numbers will come forth with the staff report likely. Just that does play a partial role to our decision in the future. Yes, please go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
So am I hearing that, the roads, the budget for the road is dependent on the tax base that lives on that road? Is that what you're telling me?
No.
Not on aggregate, no.
okay.
It's just, if, like, we have a suite of services to offer, and we can't over-deliver taxation, like, that's impossible. We have to be very cognizant of that. So in that regard, I don't want to say no.
Every resident uses every road. Whether you're driving it to Cornwall, you're paying for the county roads. I'm driving it to the quarry, I'm paying for it. Every township resident compensates for every single road. We don't base it on how many tax dollars come off that road.
I figured we were a pool of people and we were all contributing to the cause, correct? Okay.
Yeah, again, that budget sober thing is if we collect $10,000 of taxation across a municipality, we spend $12,000, we have to increase taxes. General Manager McDonald, you might have comments.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. For council's information, this is the first time that I have spoken with Mr. Poplet, so he's come to council before coming to administration. I am the General Manager of Infrastructure. As Mayor McDonald said, I follow Chris LeBlanc, who I believe you had spoken to previously, so I'm aware of the dust concerns on First Line Road. Concession 7 is our full load truck route, so that road was designed for heavy loads, and the perhaps not most desirable outcome, but one solution we could look at that's low cost is restricting trucks along this part of First Line Road, like making it a half load route, or reducing the speed in some way, which would reduce the dust. So there are a suite of things that we could look at that may not be a full asphalt road, since that asphalt road has been provided through a previous council for the purpose of carrying the quarry traffic. So just for council, there are a lot of things that we could look at administratively, and we'd be happy to do that going into the 2023, so 2024. Thank you.
I will just do one last comment from Councillor McDonnell, and then we'll wrap it up and get on with the agenda. I think it's been said. Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just one point, I guess, to that. I can 100% appreciate that, Jim McDonald, but at the end of the day, I was in the quarry today, and on the counter, they have a piece of paper that's taped onto the counter that looks to be about 25 years old, and it's printed, full loads exit 7th concession. And I don't think you're going to change it. If somebody's going to North Lancaster, or they're going down to Lancaster, they aren't going to be too attracted to come out on the 7th, where it's a blind corner going north, and you're almost blind to the south. It's just not an ideal turn off anyways, coming with a full load and a truck that's got to have a little bit of time to get up to speed. I'm not saying it's right what they're doing, but what I'm saying is they're not obeying it now, and unless we put the MTO there and made it a half load road, we're not going to be able to enforce it, not realistically.
Do you have a follow-up to that, or is, no? Okay, great. Well, thank you very much for your presentation. You are good, and I guess staff will come back with a report, and I'll let you know when that comes, so that you'll be aware of what is presented.
I want to thank you all very much for listening to me, bitch. I don't mean to be a complainer. Thanks very much for your time. I really appreciate it, as do the people behind me. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Will we be getting any notification as to where this goes?
I can let you know, or one of the members of council can let you know, and then you'll see it on the staff report. You can attend that meeting to see what's presented, or you can watch it online, or go on our website and look at our agenda to read it.
All right, so over the next days, weeks, somewhere in there, I'm going to get a call or whatever to let me know what's happening, right? Okay.
Yes, and if you reach out to us in, say, 2.5 months and we don't have anything particularly, you can take a little ownership that way too.
You can count on that. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. So we will move on to presentation and delegation 6B, Cornwall ST&G Human Services Department, vacant land report. Mrs. Morgan.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for allowing me to present this evening. This evening's report is a follow-up to a presentation that we made to this council a couple of months ago with a general housing update. We had indicated that at some point in late spring, early summer, we would be back with a follow-up report. So here I am this evening. My colleague's not with me this evening because she's presenting in South Dundas this evening. So you've got me this evening. So I have a quick presentation. This is a follow-up to basically a recommendation in our housing revitalization plan. We completed a housing revitalization plan in 2020, and it covered all of the City of Cornwall and ST&G in terms of, as a service manager, where we need to concentrate our efforts with respect to housing. We didn't know what we didn't know at the time, and certainly what we've seen from this revitalization report is that over the 10-year period, from 2021 to 2031, we would need over 740 units across Cornwall and ST&G to meet the demand for affordable and attainable housing. That report, again, was pre-pandemic, and so we're just early on in the pandemic, and so things have certainly changed in terms of the landscape of housing. So we venture to say that that number is much greater now in a post-pandemic environment, but we're aiming with the 741, and hopefully in the next 10 years, things with respect to housing may stabilize or may improve. From that housing revitalization plan and from the pandemic, We received significant pockets of money from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. So through the Social Service Relief Fund, we received 5 phases of funding, and with 3 of those phases, we have undertaken developments based on that housing revitalization plan. So our first development, which is currently in the city of Cornwall at the corner of 9th and McConnell, is due to be open July the 10th. We're expecting to have our first couple of residents move in on that day, so we're very excited to see the completion of that 77-unit apartment complex. We also had a second development that's on Pitt Street North. It's just south of the 401. And so that's an architectural rendering of what those units will look like. And our third development, we've just hired our architect for, is going to be the expansion of our Morrisburg property. It will be completed in 2 phases, and the first phase is what is just that first little picture just off to the right of the current housing complex is where we will be building in phase 2, or phase 1. The other thing that came to light for us is through the pandemic, there were a number of housing plans that had been drafted for all of the region. So there were 4 different housing plans that had been created from the Mayor's Housing Task Force to the 3 county housing plans. Each of those housing plans had a number of recommendations that were all similar. And many of those recommendations were with respect to affordable housing. So as the service manager, what we did was we created a collaborative, and this collaborative is made up of representatives of the service manager, the City of Cornwall, and all of the representatives from across the different municipalities or counties within SDNG. Joanne sits on our home collaborative, and we're very happy to have her. She's brought a wealth of knowledge to the committee. One of the major things that this home collaborative has done, and it's in conjunction with our plan through the service manager, is that we now would like to create a 10-year development plan. That 10-year development plan will address where we need the 740 units, 60% of which need to be in the counties, been identified as being in the counties. And so this long-term development plan is our projected development plan on how to get those 740 units built over 10 years. It will include pre-qualifying any lands, creating site plan designs, and then a financial plan in terms of what this will look like in terms of cost to get this built. But one of the things we needed to start with was vacant land. And so Lisa and I are now doing, this collaborative has created a list of vacant lands that are municipally serviced across SDNG in the City of Cornwall, and we are now going to each of the councils to ask for consideration of donating those vacant lands for the future construction of affordable housing. This really aligns well. Mayor McDonald and Deputy Mayor Lang were very fortunate to hear a presentation this morning from the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus 7 and 7. And what that project is essentially all of the wardens of Eastern Ontario have come together to create this regional housing plan. So we are not the only ones that are thinking of doing like a 10-year development plan, but much larger from a regional perspective. And at County Council this morning, there was a unanimous support of a resolution to support the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus Regional Housing Plan. In terms of South Glengarry itself, so Joanne has been helping us to review all of the vacant lands. I will say, in addition to vacant lands, Joanne's been very proactive in reaching out to and connecting us with developers. So anybody who's developing within South Glengarry, we've also had conversations about how we can partner with them potentially for rent supplement units. We can't build as fast as perhaps private developers can, and it's certainly not something we can tackle alone. So we have been working with or meeting with private developers to offer some alternatives through them, but specifically in terms of the vacant land, we are probably in this region about 10 years behind the times in terms of setting aside vacant land or having conversations on vacant land. And in that 10 years, we have seen lots of vacant land sold to private developers for other development, whether it's affordable housing or just regular housing developments. So we feel the time is now for us to have the conversations with municipalities about setting aside lands that we can develop for attainable and affordable housing. And what you will see on this slide is probably the only parcel of municipally owned service land within South Glengarry that would be suitable for affordable housing. I know it's a pretty tiny picture, but, and it's in Glen Walter, and it's near Glen Walter Park. So in terms of, for us, we are looking, this is an 11 acre parcel of land. We have been looking at a minimum of 4 to 5 acres of land, simply because we want to be able to build as many units as we can on those. We try to venture away from scattered units, and so we try to look for larger parcels of lands that we can maximize the number of units that we can put on any one particular development. And that is it for my presentation.
Thank you very much. Councilor Bougie.
Through Mr. Mayor, thank you for the presentation. Now, when you said 10 acres, you're talking about, because is that including all of Glen Walter Park as well, or is that just the southern portion? Because within this section is Glen Walter Park to the north. And my other concern, I guess, would be the amount of water and sewer we have at the moment. If we were to move on forward, I guess it is a 7 to 10 year plan, so hopefully by then we'll have that resolved. And but I was just wondering on your thoughts of, is it the whole property you're looking at, or just the southern portion?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, perhaps I can answer the 7 to 10 year. So you will see what we have done with all of these properties is we have classified them in 3 tiers. This is classified as a tier 3 development, which means it won't be ready for development for 7+ years. So that could be because of the lateral infrastructure that needs to be added to support that development. We have many properties across SD&G that are in that 3rd tier position, in that many townships or municipalities they're already at their maximum of capacity to add into additional lateral infrastructure. So this is certainly conversations with different levels of government on supporting construction for lateral infrastructure, because you can't build housing if you don't have the infrastructure to support it. In terms of the park, I may defer just to Joanne, because I haven't been at all the home meetings, and so the discussions on the vacant lands primarily have come to Lisa as the chair and to that committee as a whole.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Haley.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll do my best to answer that question. So the reason why that parcel is highlighted is because it currently is one large parcel. So just because this organization is looking to see if council would be able to commit some land, and obviously it would be for the long term, as Ms. Morgan indicated, it would be on 7+ years. It doesn't necessarily mean that we're identifying the exact location where the development can occur. All of council is aware that we certainly do not have available capacity in that location, which is why it's been identified as a long-term plan for the organization, because we don't know when we'll be able to service that. So I think if, in terms of this request, if council is open and willing to be dedicating land, but leaving it up to working with administration, specifically infrastructure and planning, to determine the ideal location, how it would meet the needs, both of the city, the build, the location, and be an acceptable location from a servicing perspective, I think it would be okay to consider the request, but not identify the exact location within that parcel. It's possible in the future, if we do have capacity, that council may declare some of this excess land beyond the park surplus, maybe not. But if they do, that's when we should consider, making sure we're receiving or considering this request. So I hope that answers your question. And yeah, if there's anything further, let me know.
Is your question satisfied? To the thing, under usage on the top in the middle, it says vacant lots south of Glen Walter Regional Park. So it's not the park that they're considering, just so you can see that there. Councillor McDonnell?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the presentation, Ms. Morgan. I guess my comment was along those lines as well. It was just that, like, I guess to temper anybody watching at home that might think we are going to completely develop Glen Walter Park. There's a portion, would that be south or east of Kilkenny Street, I think it is, or Glen Walter Park Road when it comes in, where the looping was done in the last couple of years, where there is, I think, 5 or 6 lots of the town, or potential lots that the township owns there. So I would assume we were looking at there, be a nice spot, abuts right up to our park, as well as it would be fully serviced. So, I like the idea. I think at this point it's a little early for us to commit. As we said, it's 7 to 10 years out. It would probably be something whenever time comes to actually do something as far as severing off those lots and allocating them at that point, whether they're for surplus. But I do like the idea of us, I guess, getting into the mix of the affordable housing within the counties and having our fair share located in South Glengarry.
So if I may, Mr. Mayor, so 2 things. No, it was never our intent to get rid of Glen Walter Park, just so we're clear. Certainly, we would like to develop and augment with the park. The other thing, the reason why we are coming to councils now is because in 2023, we will be hiring a consultant to start looking at, we'd like to create a list of all the vacant lands available, because we want to hire a consultant to come in and do general site plan designs to determine what would be needed to bring those parcels of land up to being shovel-ready. So they would design a rough idea of what that area could look like in terms of number of units, what the infrastructure might need to be to support that. As well, we would like to do surveys on these lands, and so archaeological and environmental assessments, we'd like to complete those as well, so that they truly are shovel-ready, that, you know, even if this is not going to be developed for 7 to 10 years, we've got it all done this year, and it's ready to go in our inventory of vacant lands whenever we have funding available. Certainly, if the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus is successful in their 7-in-7 bid, it could be millions of dollars that come to this area to start developments, which would really push our timeline a lot faster than what we would be considering in a 7 to 10 year type of plan.
Okay, so I know we said without, like specifically saying that we are, that this is obligated, you're looking to start planning, which then you're likely looking in the near term for somewhat of an obligation, so you can start doing those site prep works and survey works. You don't want to survey something that you're not going to get. So perhaps then a report from staff for that, and then we can discuss that particular portion of it then, because, yeah, if you want to start planning, you need to start having some sort of obligation from us. So, or not, but then at least you don't plan here.
Correct.
Did you have your hand up, Deputy Mayor Lang?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Thanks for the presentation, and it was shorter than this morning.
It's only 5 slides
But it's
today.
good for us to start thinking about this now. If we have an interest in supplying some of this land, we are in discussions to locate a water tower in that general vicinity as well. So that needs to be taken into the mix. So I think, you know, like our mayor said, well, staff will have to come back to us. We haven't nailed down the location of the water tower 100% yet either. So we're a little bit away from being able to, I think, being able to commit to what we might or might not do there. But at least now we have this in the back of our minds to think about it as we're planning these things. So thank you.
Councillor Jaworski, and I believe Ms. McDonald has a comment after.
Thank you, through you, Mayor McDonald. Thank you very much, Ms. Morgan, for coming. It's really good. I mean, although you said we're sort of behind, 10 years behind, I think you said, our region. I mean, but we're seeing a lot. I mean, this is the second time you're coming to our council. Like, I think it's really good to see all the resources that are being put towards this, and I'm very glad to hear that Ms. Haley is part of a home collaborative as well. She is has a wealth of information for sure. And so certainly from my perspective, I'm very happy that you're coming to us now with this information. And, you know, that area where that's south of Glen Walter Park Road, that's about 7 acres just in there. So just to give a sense of, you know, I mean, it's a very large property. It's almost 47 acres. So I think it definitely makes sense that you're asking about this property. And I think it makes, you know, there's likely a very nice integration of, you know, projects from your department that would definitely benefit all our benefit the community as a whole. Certainly, I support staff looking into this further and, continuing the conversation. I definitely think that that's definitely at our point in this housing crisis. It's at the least of our duties, I think, that we need to be doing at this point. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McDonald. Did you want to have a comment or question?
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. As Deputy Mayor Lang said, the bottom half of that little square at the bottom is where we're looking to site our water tower, and we're almost through our environmental assessment for that siting, so I don't see our location changing. It'll be about a quarter of the little blob that we'd be taking up, but good news for you folks is because we are building something, we had to do all the necessary site works and pre-studies, so we have our archaeological, we've got our natural heritage, and we'll have our geotech. So should you go in that route, we may be able to provide some of those studies.
Yes, and I'm not often a dreamer, but I've always saw this particular park and thought of Central Park, and if we were ever to have large residential with mixed commercial in the bottom and mixed residential, I think that is kind of one of those, maybe it will never happen, but it's one of the few things that I put that like dream and spend money on is it'd be really cool to have a skyscraper, and maybe that's out of the thing of, and mixed commercial in the bottom and little grocery store. Mix it all up. That's and it's in the right spot. I know that's me being a little crazy given my reputation, but I do like the idea of this area being developed because it is development in the right area. It is our subdivision and our built-up areas, and it provides us the best services. So I thank you very much for your presentation. I look forward to staff's report coming forward, and I'm glad that we don't have to spend money twice, or you don't have to spend money twice here, because it looks like the work's done. So that's a good little bit of information just to know. So we might be a little slower in that we've already done some of that planning for you, but we'll get back to you. And thank you for thinking of this and the 7 and 7 in our area.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
All right, so I'll just get to the top of the agenda, sorry, for a second. Okay, so we will move to action requests. 7A, Williamstown Fair, equipment request. Ms. Servage and Ms. McDonald. Moved by Stephanie Jaworski, seconded by Martin Lang. Be it resolved that staff report 84, 2023 be received and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry approve the equipment request from the St. Lawrence Valley Agricultural Society for the 2023 Williamstown Fair.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll just speak to this one quickly, but we did receive the attached letter from the St. Lawrence Valley Agricultural Society for the Williamstown Fair. We receive a similar letter every year regarding, the items and services that they would like us to provide for them and help them with their fair every year. But because administration has, developed a standardized approach to community requests, I just wanted, as a formality, just to bring this forward so that council is just aware of these items, and myself and GM McDonald don't have any issues with it. It's just, we just wanted to bring it forward for you, and we adjust our operations in order to accommodate as best as we can for the fair every year.
No, I appreciate you bringing it forward because it shows what we do that doesn't always get noticed. So are there any questions or comments of council? Okay, the resolution was previously read. All those in favor of it? Any opposed? Seeing none, carried. Thank you very much. So we'll move to request for alteration of Green Road. Ms. McDonald, moved by Martin Lang, seconded by Sam McDonnell. Be it resolved that staff report 85, 2023 be received and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry approves the request to clear the unopened road allowance identified as PIN 671370088 east from Fifth Line Road in accordance with bylaw 3314, and furthermore that the General Manager of Infrastructure Services is authorized to enter into agreement with Manbir Singh for alterations. Ms. McDonald?
Thank you, and if council will remember, we had a probably very technical difficulty presentation last council meeting for this request. We, meaning myself and GM Haley, spoke with the applicant last week to clarify some of their what they would be doing with the land. And at this point, they're not entirely too sure. They're still exploring options, but GM Haley gave them some good advice on what they could and could not do in that area and what would be an appropriate land use and what would not. So they have come back and requested permission to clear the green road so that they can begin clearing their site and seeing what's out there. So it's not the intent to take it on as a public road in the future, it's simply the request to clear the road. Not in the staff report. It's kind of the length of that clearing, and I was thinking kind of midpoint of their property, so it'd be 50 meters along their frontage, just to allow them to get in and look around.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. And thanks, Ms. McDonald. Was there any discussion, like, it's one thing to let them clear it, are we going to let them put down gravel or anything? Because, I mean, if they clear it, it's only going to be accessible in extremely dry weather. If it just remains dirt, or if they put down some gravel or some type of, large fill, maybe 3-inch minus or something, so that they actually have a base to drive on. And are we allowing them to do that? It's not in the report, so I wasn't sure.
Excellent question. Through you, Mayor McDonald, we often allow people, once they've cleared it, to just make it drivable. So they fill in potholes as it comes along.
Thank you. Councillor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I guess I had just a comment or a question, I guess, as far as on the map, it shows that they're clearing the entire portion of it. Are we able to restrain that to their property line? I mean, they shouldn't need to clear the entire road through their property if they're looking for access. So that was just a comment / concern of mine.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I would recommend that we consider up to a kind of 50% of their property, so that's about 50 meters beyond their western property limit.
Okay. So long as I guess it's clear that we retain that, we own that property still. It's not free reign for use. It's just I wouldn't even go that far. I'd give them, once they get to their property, you've got to make an entrance. There is, I guess, just a point is just that this is, there's the old saying, buyer beware. When you're purchasing a property, you must know your property lines. It's like buying something at an auction. You buy it and it doesn't work, well, it's buyer beware. I have no problem giving access. I just don't think we should be allowing them to clear the entire portion of the green road. And I just don't think that, I don't know, for myself, I reserve any sympathies based on the purchase was made on a property that it wasn't like the lot lines were unclear. So I want to be plain and clear. I think they stop at their property line. They've got their access, they can go into their property from there.
Councillor Jaworski.
You through, Mayor McDonald. I have concerns similar to Councillor McDonnell. Just seeing some, to me, the reasoning and the request and why I'm supportive of the request is to provide access to their property. And so that to me means, the green road to basically, the edge of their property and being able to get into their property. I don't want to go beyond that, beyond what's, practical for them to have access. I don't want to go beyond that for a couple of reasons. This is public property, so once you clear half of it, it can encourage, people traversing it entirely. And we don't have a lot of control of what would necessarily be going on the eastern side of it. Also, we've had some situations before where folks are using green roads as their laneways. And I don't, it seems that causes us a lot of problems going down in the future. So again, giving them, to the middle of their property, again, I feel it's like giving them, an open road allowance as their laneway. Again, I feel like it's just, and lastly, my last reasoning is, again, just in keeping with the tree canopy policy, just to, keep tree cover as much as possible. Again, if it's to access their property, they really only need to get to the border of it. So that's why I'd like to, have it as limited as possible. And also, I'd like the neighbors to the south to be advised of what's happening, just so there's no surprises that this is occurring. and just notify them that this is, happening in advance. And I do see in the staff report, though, that there will have to be a survey, so there should not be any issues of people cutting on land that doesn't belong to them. But I think it's important also to clarify that that's a requirement of the work, too. Thanks.
Councillor Bougie?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to echo the sentiment of Councillor Jaworski and Councillor McDonnell as well. I mean, on the map we see in front of us, it's looking like they're going to have to take some trees down, but then looking on Google Maps, is there a way to get by there, or is that the farmer's land that is kind of has a trail through there? It's hard to kind of picture at the moment, but if there is a way to limit the amount of trees coming down, I'm definitely in favor of that. And I do like the point that Councillor McDonnell did say about buyer beware. I mean, they knew the property they were getting, and I mean, they're in this situation of their own demise. I mean, that might not be nice to say, but I do want to help them as well, but I don't want mature trees coming down on our green road as well. So if we can limit that as much as possible, that would be ideal. Thank you.
Okay, it seems, Deputy Mayor Lang, last comment, or maybe there might be one after that. But
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Maybe we gotta have, you can't just end right at the property, because then you'd have to cut across the corner of the neighbor's property to get on. You need a turning radius or something to get in. The property is 100 meters wide, so 50 meters would have been halfway. What's the width of our open road allowances? 10 meters? No, a little more than that, eh? 60 feet? Likely. What about 20 meters?
Yeah, through
I
you, Mr. Mayor,
personally was
it's
thinking
it's
turn
40
radius
feet.
I was personally thinking turn radius for a truck. I'm assuming if they want access, they plan on taking some trees down. That's their decision on their property. I have no problem there. I think if they've got the turn radius to get a truck in, that they aren't impeding on the adjacent property owner's land. I agree, Deputy Mayor Lang. It shouldn't be the adjacent property owner's problem. They should be allowed in, but I say like a reasonable
So
amount.
is 20
not 50.
meters a reasonable amount? To me, it seems 20 meters would be a good amount to be able to get turned and get in, and to stay off the neighbors, and not have your laneway right tight to the neighbor's property. So I would recommend 20 meters instead of the 50.
Okay, well, in that regard, we will trust the manager of roads to allow for not crossing, having that cut into, if that is 15 meters, if it's 16, whatever it is, just as the minimal amount to make sure that they are able to turn in their property without afflicting either of the neighboring properties. And I don't think this resolution, states specifically an amount, but you have the direction is just entrance to the property, not halfway, as minimal as possible.
20 meters would be 65 feet. That's
Yeah, so it's we'll leave that administratively for that, the specific nature of it, but you have the will of council there. So having read the motion, does anybody need me to read it again? And we've provided direction. Direction is good to you? Okay. All those in favor of the motion, sorry. I can reread it then. Moved by Martin Lang, seconded by Sam McDonnell. Be it resolved that staff report 85, 2023 be received and that the council of the township of South Glengarry approves a request to clear the unopened road allowance identified as pin 671370088 east from Fifth Line Road in accordance with bylaw 3314, and furthermore, the general manager of infrastructure is authorized to enter into the agreement with Manbir Singh for the alterations. Do we want to be more specific as into because it says there.
Yeah, if the way I read that, it means, to me, it reads like we're authorizing they can clear the whole pin. So,
In addition, saying perhaps to allow turning radius onto the property or something like that.
I would say 20 meters within, I would define it as 20 meters into their property, along their property, or however you want to outline it. Because to me, as it reads as well, the pin, you're authorizing pin 671370088, which is to the border.
Yep.
I wouldn't leave it where we have no power over it, because we've read it as a pin.
Then
I
perhaps
think
putting
maybe just clear a portion of the unopened road allowance in consultation with infrastructure. Because, again, I don't want to be sticking on a number, because the middle of the diameter of the turning radius is not going to be in the middle of the road allowance. Like the whole turning radius should be shifted up into their property, I think. So, I mean, I don't think it helps to get that finicky, but the way it's written to me today feels like it's the whole thing. So maybe it's a portion as determined in consultation with administration, I don't know, to minimize alteration, something like that.
Would council be comfortable with a portion? Because that does clearly, when we have public record now, and you've been guided to the minimal portion, but a portion, not the whole thing. Would you like minimal portion? I know it's a little, minimal portion? Okay. I'll read that again then. Moved by Martin Lang, seconded by Sam McDonnell. Be it resolved that Staff Report 85/2023 be received and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry approves a request to clear a minimal portion of the unopened road allowance identified as pin 671370088 east from Fifth Line Road in accordance with bylaw 3314, and furthermore that the General Manager of Infrastructure Services is authorized to enter into an agreement with Manbir Singh for the alterations. Okay, all those in favor of it as read? Carried. We'll move to Staff Report 86, 2023. Moved by Trevor Bougie, seconded by Martin Lang. Be it resolved that Staff Report 86, 2023 be received and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry direct administration to proceed in 2023 with short-term roof repairs to the Williamstown Fire Station. Mr. Robertson?
Good evening, Council. As Council is aware, the roof of the Williamstown Fire Station has reached the end of its lifespan. It needs to be replaced. The item was, Council has given me direction in the past, over the last number of months, to evaluate the various options that are open to us for a roof replacement. Those two options are replacement of the existing asphalt flat roof as it is today, or to evaluate whether or not it's feasible to go with a sloped truss roof system with steel sheeting, better known as tin. Direction was given to myself to proceed with an evaluation with an engineering firm to see that if the building could support a sloped roof. This is the type of roof that Council has mentioned they're in favor of moving forward with on buildings such as this. We obtained the services of an engineering firm. They have completed their engineering study of the building, and they have confirmed that a sloped roof is a viable solution for this facility. In the staff report, it talks about the lifespans of the two different roof systems and the life expectancy years. In speaking to the price, the existing flat asphalt roof, in November of 2022, we were given a price of $184,000 to replace as is. Updated pricing from a contractor, and this is only an estimation, would be approximately 10% more than that, just due to they're no longer working on the building at the same time, and market increases. So we're putting a number of approximately $200,000 to the replacement of an asphalt flat roof. The engineers have come out, part of their scope of work was to give us a Class D estimate on what a sloped roof would be valued at. That value has come back at $460,000. That is significantly higher than the funds, the $250,000 that we had put into this year's budget with the estimated replacement cost of that roof. This comes back to, there's many reasons for this, but that is the price that they've given us as a Class D. That being said, that is in discussions with the engineering firm. That appears that it, when they consider materials, there is the report from the engineers is attached to your agenda, in that there is a range for steel products, for various different things. This appears, they're confident in thinking that this would be at the upper end of that range. But as council is well aware, in today's construction market, we don't want to err on the low side of construction projects. So with the two prices and the two designs, both designs are feasible for the building. We have determined that even if council is in favor of going with the sloped roof truss system, there is not enough funds in fire reserves at this current time to facilitate the project in the 2023 construction year. It would need to be postponed until 2024, pending 2024 budget discussions and further allocations of funds through that process. So with that, fire administration, myself, I'm suggesting that we postpone this project and proceed with short-term repairs to the roof. We don't want to invest any more funds than we need to, but those mitigation measures would, we're thinking we can do a lot with $10,000. Hopefully, our aim or desire is to be considerably less than that, to do it as minimal with as minimal cost as possible. But I think we need to consider the just getting contractors is an expensive item in today's market. So basically, this staff report is just to get council's blessing to postpone the roof replacement. If it's a decision of council that to go with a flat roof, to postpone it until 2024, pending 2024 budget deliberations and discussions and additional funds. So, open to any questions.
As I was about to say, Williamstown Fire Chief, Deputy Mayor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. It is disappointing that the price is coming in so high, and I'm optimistic that it could be done cheaper, but I am still adamant that I would love to see us get away from a flat roof. I still regret that we did the North Lancaster Roads Garage as a flat roof for $140,000, I believe. It must be 4 years ago or so. They're saying a lifespan of 20 years. I don't know that I believe that. They give a 15-year warranty, but I'm sure it's prorated as you get to the end of that warranty, so it really doesn't cover very much. But let's say that their lifespan of 20 years is correct, and it's $200,000 to replace it now. 20 years from now, it's going to be at least 50% more, so there's $300,000. And then 20 years later, it's going to be another 50% more. So that, to me, that's $950,000 that we come up to at the end in 60 years that we will have spent on that roof, that flat roof. And I'm quite sure a tin roof will last the 60 years for 400 and some thousand. And when it is time to change it, you don't have to put the whole cost in because you don't need to buy the trusses at that point. You only change the tin. So to me, the taxpayers' dollars are better spent on sloped roofs with tin. And I know it's an extra cost to get to that point, but I think we should go that way. So if it means waiting another year, we wait another year, put more money aside next year and do it. I'd love to do it right. That's my thoughts.
Just before going to you, I also, on the numbers, I just looked at present numbers without thinking, and you divide them, and flat roof is over 10K per year. If you look at it over lifetime, and a truss roof is under 10K. So I'm in agreement, like, financially it makes sense over time. Councillor McDonnell and then Councillor Jaworski.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I was actually just going to bring up the same numbers you did. It's, to me, I'll agree with the deputy mayor that North Lancaster to me was a regret. What was it? 2 years later, we were getting phone calls from staff and from our tenant there saying that we already had a leak in that roof. I know they build I've heard this conversation 100 times. I know they build skyscrapers in Toronto and none of them leak, and it's, to me, anything that is going to have water pooling at some point on it is not ideal, especially asphalt. I think the trusses are probably the wiser way to go, and I have no problem at this point holding off for a year to see where that takes us at budget time, especially as we update those Class Ds. So, yeah, no, at this point, I'm fine deferring.
Counselor Jaworski?
Thank you, through you, Mayor McDonald. Yeah, definitely, in terms of total life cycle cost, I think the wood truss definitely wins out. And so I'm definitely, in favor of using our money wiser. One thing I wanted to mention, and I know, as far as I understand, the Green Building Fund that the feds had is closed presently, but I'd be supportive of us, definitely moving ahead in terms of having all the information we would need to, be able to move forward with a project like this. And with, I'd be supportive of if that Green Building Fund opened up again, at least in its last iteration, if you were putting on solar panels, it could pay for the rehabilitation of the roof to be able to hold the solar panels. So if this is a way that we could, get some grant money to even bring down the life cycle costs of the building even further by having renewable energy on it, I would love if that could be something that we could at least keep in our back pocket in case, those opportunities present themselves again. Thank you.
Thank you, and Councilor Jaworski has said that several times, so anytime we have a building staff, please keep in mind that green fund, and if we can't, yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, so it seems like on the whole, we're in support, so I will call the vote. All those in favor of the motion as read. Any if opposed, seeing none, carried. Moving to bylaws, Devanco zoning bylaw amendment. Ms. Haley, moved by Trevor Bougie, seconded by Stephanie Jaworski. Be it resolved that staff report 87, 2023 be received and that bylaw 41, 2023 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 3809 for a 2.7 hectare portion of the property legally described as part of lot 35 concession 1 in the geographic township of Lancaster, now the township of South Glengarry, county of Glengarry, located at 20532 South Service Road, South Lancaster, be rezoned from rural RU and floodplain holding, FPH, to general commercial exception 6, CG6, and floodplain, FP. Be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 19th day of June, 2023. The council of the township of South Glengarry confirms that the comments received from the public on this application were considered and there was no effect on their decision. Ms. Haley?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this property is located at 20532 South Service Road. For those of you who drive by that location, you'll see that it's currently being used as a staging area for MTO construction projects. However, the property owner approached us quite some time ago about the possibility of relocating his current business to this location. And that resulted in the need of an official plan amendment as well as a zoning bylaw amendment. The official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment joint hearing was held, and I understand at County Council today that the official plan amendment was approved. So we're now putting the zoning bylaw before you this evening with a recommendation for it to also be approved. If it's approved, it means that approximately 6.67 acres of the north end of the subject property will be rezoned from rural and floodplain holding to general commercial exception 6 and floodplain. And what it will do is it'll limit the type of uses to be located on this parcel of property. And the limited uses have been requested by the applicant through their planning firm and a planning rationale. And it'll basically meet the needs of their future development. And when they construct a new structure, they're also hoping to create additional units for rent that can accommodate other businesses. So it's possible that we'll have a variety of mixed-use commercial uses in that location that will service the community, create some jobs, and provide different business opportunities. You'll see in the staff report that the proposed development does conform to the provincial policy statement, the official plan, and meets the general intent of the bylaw. And as I mentioned, we had a public meeting. Our public meeting was held on April 24th. We didn't have anyone in attendance at the public meeting, although we did have written communication back and forth with an adjacent property owner. They didn't file any concerns or objections, but they were interested as to what was happening in the area. This application was circulated to the Raisin Region Conservation Authority as well as the Ministry of Transportation, and they support the proposed development. So if there's any questions, Mr. Mayor, please let me know.
Okay, I don't see any questions, and none of the information changed from the public meeting, so it's all the, so, okay, great, and then it's still good to council, good. Okay, so I'll call the vote. All those in favor of the motion as read. Any opposed? Seeing none, carried. We'll now move to bylaw 8B, 100040894 Ontario Inc. Sing zoning bylaw amendment. Ms. Haley, oh, sorry, motion first. Moved by Stephanie Jaworski, seconded by Sam McDonnell. Be it resolved that staff report 88, 2023 be received in the bylaw 42, 2023, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 3809 to rezone the lots 29 and 52 and parts of lot 30 and 51 on Plan 26, being Part 1 of Reference Plan 14R4949 in the geographic village of Lancaster, now the township of South Glengarry, in the county of Glengarry, located at 18 Oak Street, Lancaster. From residential R3 to residential 4, exception 5, R45, to permit the apartment building and to reduce the minimum dwelling floor area for a bachelor or studio apartment from 46 square meters to 38 square meters, and for a one-bedroom apartment from 56 square meters to 47 square meters on the subject property be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 19th day of June 2023. The Council of the Township of South Glengarry confirms that no comments from the public were received on this application. Therefore, there was no effect on the decision. Ms. Haley.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. So this property is located at 18 Oak Street, which is only a couple properties just west of the municipal office. Many of you know this property as a former retirement manor, and the purpose of this zoning amendment application would be to change the use to go from a 28-room retirement manor to a 17-unit apartment building. And the purpose of the exception zone is to reduce the minimum square footage for each unit as per the requirements of our bylaw. So we also had a public meeting on this application. We had nobody in attendance at this public meeting. And so I'm assuming that's good news. I'm assuming that the community is going to welcome the change of use and welcome the proposed new dwelling units, which will be a great addition to Lancaster, because many of you know that we don't have a lot of different style of housing in Lancaster area. According to my staff report, the proposed development conforms to the regulatory planning framework, policy framework, and we are recommending that it be approved. We also circulated this application to the Ministry of Transportation, as it happens to fall within their circulation area, but they had no concerns with the proposed zoning change, and administration is recommending it to be approved. We also had an application before us at Committee of Adjustment this evening that did a slight reduction to the parking. Unfortunately, it wasn't able to be captured in this application. At the time when they filed this, they thought they were going to meet the parking requirements, and so it just it resulted in a different application. But if this application is approved, then they'll be able to go ahead and apply for a building permit to start altering the units and hopefully be open as soon as possible to accommodate new residents. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, and no changes from the public meeting as well? No, great. Any comments of council? None? Okay, great. The motion is read as before you. All those in favor? Any of opposed? Seeing none, carried. We will move into bylaw 8C, municipal access agreements, MMA with Net Solid. Ms. McDonald. Moved by Trevor Bougie, seconded by Stephanie Jaworski. Be it resolved that staff report 89, 2023 be received in the bylaw 43, 2023, being a bylaw to enter into municipal access agreement with Net Solid for the passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 19th day, for the expansion of their high-speed internet service be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 19th day of June 2023, and furthermore that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign all applicable documents. I believe this is one for Councillor McDonnell to has declared pecuniary, or a declaration of pecuniary interest. Ms. McDonald.
Thank you. And before I begin, I'd like to confirm, Mr. Mayor, that the counties did pass such a...
Yes, they did.
Thank you. So this is exciting. This is a report to enter into a municipal access agreement with NetSolid, who is a rural high-speed internet provider. This agreement would allow NetSolid to install their infrastructure within the road right-of-way through a municipal consent. The agreement before you has been vetted at the county level by SDNG, and County Council, as I understand, has entered into this exact agreement with NetSolid. They're looking at expanding through the Banesville, Craig Key area immediately and are, I think, ready to go this year. So that would be a big win for South Glengarry, and I'm fairly confident in this agreement since it's been vetted through many lawyers and many insurances at both SD&G, Prescott Russell, and around the area through I believe it's Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus. So it's our recommendation that we enter into this, and hopefully this will, in Banesville and Craig Key, be the first of many such places. Thank you.
Thank you, and if council will oblige me, that this thing I said at council today was, it's nice to see services move east to west. We're always kind of focused on getting things from Toronto, so please, administration, keep in mind that our border is right there. Having met their mayor, very open, and there are businesses that can bring things this way, and this is just a great example of that, because we can meet in the middle instead of just going one way. So are there any questions of this staff report as read, and motion? Nope. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, carried. Bylaw 8D, delegated authority for patio encroachment permits. Ms. McDonald, moved by Martin Lang, seconded by Sam McDonnell. Be it resolved that staff report 90/2023 be received, and that bylaw 44/2023, being a bylaw to delegate authority for the approval of encroachment agreements for commercial patios that encroach on township road allowances, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 19th day of June 2023. And furthermore, that the delegated authority expire on October 31st, 2026. Ms. McDonald?
Thank you. This is a staff report. It's a little convoluted. I know council has gone through this before. When issuing temporary permits for patios, the first step, I believe their annual permits are issued by our CBO, but before we get to there, an encroachment agreement needs to be entered into for the use of the right-of-way. So this is requesting delegated authority for that encroachment agreement for the use of the right-of-way. Council have provided this to the General Manager of Infrastructure Services in the past. It expired in 2020, and it was a kind of a 4-month term. I'm proposing a 4-year term to the end of your council, and then if you are happy with how administration has been using this delegated authority, we would look to make it a permanent delegation of authority. Thank you.
Are there any questions or comments, council? Councillor Jaworski, and then Deputy Mayor Lang, and then Councillor McDonnell.
Thank you, Mayor McDonald. Thank you, Ms. McDonald, for bringing this forward. I mean, I think this is, this is great to see, because this is, helps these, this means these businesses have, they anticipate that they're going to have enough patrons to need all this additional seating, and that's great for those businesses, and it's great for the community too, to be able to, have more opportunity to be able to eat out, and it really does have a really nice rejuvenating, revitalizing effect on the village when these are in place. It's one of those silver linings from COVID, I guess I would call it. So certainly I'm in favor of this, and I think the idea of extending the delegation so that the delegating of the authority to yourself for the duration of the term of council, I think makes a lot of sense, because I think these are fairly straightforward. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, I would agree with Councillor Jaworski. The only thing I might add is that just to make sure that the people realize that if they can't come to an agreement with yourself or staff, that there is the option to come forward to council, and just so they don't think that you've said no and that's the end of it, and there always should be that ability to appeal to somebody a little higher up. So,
Through you, Mr. Mayor. No, I was a mix of the two comments made from my colleagues across the table, just that our operations of government happen every 2 weeks, whereas yours are on a daily basis. So reactive, it's opposed to having somebody sitting waiting for our decision 2 weeks, makes a lot of sense. And two, as well, just a point that either it could be, if it could be reflected in departmental updates or whatever the case may be, just that I guess when they go out, that we get a little nod that so-and-so got a patio extension or whatever. Lancaster Pizzeria or Sheehan's Pub has now got theirs up. I see South Glengarry's going. So not, I guess, don't kill yourself trying to make us aware of these things, but just they're nice to know, I guess, when they do come up.
Thank you, and yeah, these are streetscapes you kind of think of Montreal when you see people dining on, or like European cities, and that's great for livability. There's if I can plug a YouTube channel, Oh the Urbanity. It's quite a fun one that talks about how eating and dining on the patio is great for your village. So I was happy to see it at the Lancaster Pizzeria, and now it's nice to have across the street. Like that was one great benefit of COVID, I truly think so. Thank you very much. All those in favor of the motion as read? Any opposed? Seeing none, carried. Yes, just a comment from the clerk before reading this. This is moving to items for consideration, notice of motion. Women of Ontario say no.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. So council will recall at our last meeting, there was a discussion on some correspondence received by the Women of Ontario who say no, and there was consensus around the council table to bring a motion forward at the subsequent meeting being this evening. I do just want to give council a heads up that the resolution that was provided in the agenda package, we have updated it since the agenda went out. The reason being we did receive additional information this morning from the same organization that provided wording for a resolution. So we updated the resolution so it is just a little bit more in-depth than what was provided in your agenda package. I just wanted to give you that heads up before Mayor McDonald goes through the updated resolution.
And before I speak to it, just to make sure, and I look to Councillor McDonnell, because we are all in support of this. Is this timely in that, has this, I'm just looking to your provincial guidance perhaps, is it timely to do this, or is it kind of late after, has something changed?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I wouldn't say it's going to fall on deaf ears by any ways. I mean, it could very well come back in private members' business in the next session of Parliament, or in the next session of this Parliament. But at this point, that bill has died on the table and will not be pursued by the government at this point by the looks of it, so.
Okay, with that, do we still wish to support it through resolution, I think? Yes, okay, that was the will of council.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I guess for the clerk when sending it along, just make it, I guess, a point added to it, just be that council of the Township of South Glengarry acknowledges, whatever, that the general intent of that bill was something they'd like to see pursued, or something along those lines, that should it be in somebody's interest in the next session, that it come forward as private members' business.
Thank you for that guidance. So I have a mover. I'm looking for a seconder for this one. Yes, I will, but it's just moved by Martin Lang. I just want to bring a seconder on it just so we can put it on the floor. So I saw Councillor Bougie's hand up, so I'll put that. Moment.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind, while you're updating the resolution, I think perhaps the reason why they sent through some updated wording is to, as a result of what Councillor McDonnell was speaking to, and they've generalized it a little bit more, that it's not specific to the bill that's been voted down.
Okay, so I have been accused of talking too fast at times, so I'll read this one a little bit slower since it's new to you, to us, I should say. Whereas all Ontarians deserve and expect a safe and respectful workplace, whereas municipal governments, as democratic institutions most directly engaged with Ontarians, need respectful discourse. Whereas several incidents in recent years of disrespectful behavior and workplace harassment have occurred amongst members of municipal councils. Whereas these incidents seriously and negatively affect the people involved and lower public perceptions of local governments. Whereas municipal codes of conduct are helpful tools to set expectations of council member behavior. Whereas municipal governments do not have the necessary tools to adequately enforce compliance with municipal codes of conduct. Be it resolved that the Township of South Glengarry supports the call of the Association of Municipalities of Ontario for the Government of Ontario to introduce legislation to strengthen municipal codes of conduct and compliance with them in consultation with municipal governments. Also, be it resolved that the legislation encompass the Association of Municipalities of Ontario's recommendation for updating municipal codes of conduct to account for workplace safety and harassment. Creating a flexible administrative penalty regime adapted to the local economic and financial circumstances of municipalities across Ontario. Increasing training of municipal integrity commissioners to enhance consistency of investigations and recommendations across the province. Allowing municipalities to apply to a member of the judiciary to remove a sitting member if recommended through the report of the Municipal Integrity Commissioner. Prohibit a member so removed from sitting for election in the term of removal and the subsequent term of office. Is there any discussion of council on that resolution? Or we can always defer it if you want to read it and come back to it. Councillor Jaworski?
Yeah, no, I mean, I like the fact that we are speaking to what's already been recommended by AMO, because AMO's been looking at this for some time, so greater minds have put something together, so I'm comfortable with what AMO is recommending.
Councillor McDonnell?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm fine as well with it. I think we've seen examples both locally and to Eastern Ontario and across the province of different situations where you know, there are members of council who have been accused of or have been found to have committed heinous things and behaved unbecoming their office, and there should be proper repercussions for that for specifically the ethics commissioner if they find so. That should be appropriate. So I'm fine supporting it as it is. I think it's fine to move forward tonight, I think.
Very great. You heard the motion. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, carried. So this motion is also being moved but not seconded, so it's moved by Councillor Jaworski. Do I have a seconder for it? And this is for the retained surplus proceeds from tax sales. We'll go to Deputy Mayor Lang. Whereas the Council of the Township of South Glengarry received a resolution from Tay Valley Township for the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing letter to retain surplus proceeds from tax sales. Now therefore be it resolved that a letter be sent to all relevant taxation bodies, including the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, the Ministry of Finance, John Gordon, MPP, the Association of the Municipalities of Ontario, and all other municipalities of Ontario, urging them to reinstate previous legislation that permitted a municipality to apply for and retain the surplus proceeds from a tax sale in their jurisdiction. Is there any discussion, or can I? Okay, all those in favor of the motion as read? Any opposed? Seeing none, carried. So this would be notice of motion, notice of motion, insurance costs. This one was moved by Councillor Bougie. Can I have a seconder to bring it up to read? We'll go to Councillor McDonnell. I believe I saw his hand up. Whereas the Council of the Township of South Glengarry received a resolution from the municipality of Tweed for reducing municipal insurance costs, now therefore be it resolved that the Township of South Glengarry calls upon the province to take action to reduce municipal insurance costs, and further, that this resolution be forwarded to the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, AMO, the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, MPP Rick Breezy, and all Ontario municipalities for support. Any comments? All those in favor of the motion as read? Any opposed? Seeing none, carried. I don't believe there were any items pulled from the consent agenda. Great. Moved by Trevor Bougie, seconded by Sam McDonnell. Be it resolved that the council accepts the items listed on the consent agenda. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, carried. So we will now be moving into closed session, moved by Trevor Bougie, seconded by Martin Lang. Be it resolved that the council convene to the closed session at 8:35 p.m. to discuss the following items under Section 239(2) of the Municipal Act, SO 2001. 2, a meeting or part of a meeting may be closed to the public if the subject matter being considered is F, advice subject to solicitor-client privilege, specifically legal advice, ongoing litigation. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, carried. Moved by Trevor Bougie, seconded by Martin Lang. Be it resolved that administration and legal counsel be directed to carry out all actions as specified in closed session minutes. All those in favor? Any of opposed? Seeing none. Carried. Moved by Martin Lang, seconded by Stephanie Jaworski. Be it resolved that bylaw 39, 2023, being a bylaw to adopt, confirm, and ratify matters dealt with by resolution, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 19th day of June 2023. All those in favor? Any of opposed? Carried. And the adjournment, moved by Martin Lang, seconded by Sam McDonnell. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry adjourn to the call of the chair at 9:45 p.m. All those in favor? Any of opposed? Seeing none? Carried. Thank you for everyone for your time, including staff who's here and staff who's not here. Have a good evening.